day 748 of the Trump administration. The president's battle to fend off the investigations threatening his office have taken a whole new level of urgency. While Robert Mueller has had Trump and his associates under scrutiny for the better part of 2 years now, Democrats in the House just started their investigation in the main today. In fact, just hours after Trump's warning at last night's State of the Union address.
An economic miracle is taking place in the United States, and the only thing that can stop it are foolish wars, politics, or ridiculous partisan investigations. If there is going to be peace and legislation, there cannot be war and investigation. It just doesn't work that way.
Aaron Blake of the Washington Post captures the Dems' new approach to Trump in his latest piece. Blake, who will join us in just a moment, writes, quote, House Democrats are clearly not cowed. In fact, quite the opposite. The quite the opposite part came to life in his comment today from Speaker Pelosi, who told reporters, quote, the president should not bring threats to the floor of the House. The chairs of 3 powerful House committees now investigating Trump have also weighed in, insisting they have no intention of backing off.
I want to address the president's remarks last night, his effort to discourage any meaningful oversight of the administration. That's a non-starter. We are not going to be intimidated or threatened by the president.
We are doing what is demanded by our Constitution. That is to be a check and balance on the executive branch. As a matter of fact, we're sworn to do that, and we're going to do that.
To say that we can't do that is to say we shouldn't do our constitutional duty. It's to assert an executive preeminence that one would think he might want to be a dictator. He cannot escape, nor should any president escape congressional oversight.
Well, you heard him earlier. The new chairman of House Intel, Adam Schiff, made his big move today. He has announced he's starting and broadening the committee's Russia investigation, which had been effectively put to bed by Trump-friendly Republican Devin Nunes of California. Schiff laid out 5 key areas of inquiry. These are big and broad. 1, the Russian government's ongoing efforts to influence the U.S. political process. 2, any links or coordination between Russia and Trump world. 3, whether any foreign actor holds financial or other leverage over the president or has sought to compromise him. 4, whether the president or anyone in his orbit has been vulnerable to foreign pressure or tried to shape U.S. policy in service of foreign interests. And 5, whether any actors, foreign or domestic, have tried to influence investigations into these matters, including those in the Congress. Again, when the president went after investigations in his speech last night, an extraordinary moment, this is the kind of thing he was talking about. And today he was asked about all of it.
The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, said he was going to launch a deep investigation into not only Russia, but...
Did you say Adam Schiff?
Adam Schiff.
Oh,
said
never heard of him.
Said that he would...
That wouldn't be partisan, would it? Would that be partisan?
But not only...
On what basis would he do that? He has no basis to do that. He's just a political hack who's trying to build a name for himself. It's called presidential harassment, and it's unfortunate, and it really does hurt our country.
Also today, in his first act in the new era of Democratic control, the House Intelligence Committee voted to release dozens of transcripts from witness interviews to Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Again, all of this overseen by Schiff. All in all, over 7,000 pages of transcripts. That includes testimony from a number of big names, key witnesses, including but not limited to the president's son, son-in-law, his first attorney general, his former communications director, former senior advisor, and the manager of his re-election campaign. Mueller has already charged 2 people who appeared before the House Intel Committee, Roger Stone and Michael Cohen, with lying during their congressional testimony. Cohen was scheduled to return to the committee for a closed-door hearing on Friday. Today, that was moved to later in the month. Meanwhile, Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker is set to appear before the House Judiciary Committee on Friday. Chairman of that body, Jerry Nadler, is preparing a subpoena just in case Whitaker doesn't show. Nadler says his committee wants to ask Whitaker about his supervision of the Mueller investigation and his decision not to take himself out of it, despite his prejudgments, his criticisms of the inquiry. Well, with that, a lot to talk about. Let's bring in our leadoff panel. On a Wednesday night, Mika Oyang, veteran Washington attorney and former staffer for the House Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. Harry Litman's here with us in New York, a DOJ veteran who is both a former U.S. attorney and former deputy assistant attorney general under President Clinton. And the aforementioned Aaron Blake, senior political reporter at the Washington Post. Mika, let's start with you. Given your experience on the Hill, by how much is Donald Trump's life going to change again effective today?
It's going to change quite dramatically. You have many committees who are very serious about getting to the bottom of a whole variety of issues with the Trump administration, their policies, but more particularly with the president and his personal financial entanglements. There are things that are fine if you are a private citizen or a private business person to have overseas financial connections. They're not okay if you're running the government and the president of the United States. If you don't want to give up those connections, you should not be running the government. And he was unwilling to give up those connections. So it is completely reasonable for Congress to be looking into the leverage that foreign countries may have over the most senior decision maker our country has.
Harry, you too are a man of the law. Help us understand this. Folks who watch us every night hear us talking about the Mueller investigation. In the main, they are now zeroing in on something called the Southern District of New York, and now this third front, and it seems formidable. How does this change the president's legal exposure? By how much should he worry about this by percentage compared to all the others?
Well, so Congress, the operative word, as you put it, really is broadening. Relative to Mueller, who, remember, had a specific commission of what he had to pursue. The subject matters announced by Schiff today are broader chronologically. They go back in time, and also there's a whole geographic angle. There could be any kind of foreign country at all, and maybe the whole kind of mess in the Seychelles and others that we've heard just tangentially from Mueller. So in that sense, they're broader. The Congress has less power other than impeachment to really wield great penalties against him. That leaves the Southern District of New York, which both has the breadth, because it's not limited, and I would say both the power and the sort of culture of aggressiveness to go after him without any holds barred.
And Aaron, indeed, to Mika's point, to Harry's point, this could have a depth to it, a reach to it, into places the president really doesn't want to have examined. Family and business, often linked together as the same thing, that these other investigations have not as of yet.
Yeah, and I think that's always been the big question with SDNY is how much would they really be probing not just the Trump charity, not just the Trump Foundation, not just Trump University or collusion or the people around the president, but the Trump organization itself. There hasn't been necessarily an investigation focused deliberately on that. I think that the House is now also expanding into this territory. If you look at the verbiage in Adam Schiff's release today, points 3 and 4 refer specifically to the idea that the president of the United States could be compromised. It also makes specific reference to the Trump organization, to Trump's family. All of these things are now fair game, and all of them play into these 5 points that you laid out. Pretty much everything that we are talking about as far as Mueller goes, as far as SDNY goes, could also come into play with these House investigations now.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.